Hello all and welcome to our Crochet Designs. My name is Mary and in today's tutorial we are doing part 1 or step 1 of our 12-step transition blanket, our annual project for 2025. I'm pretty sure I said that whole sentence without even breathing. But there you go guys, we are roaring and ready to go for our blanket. I promised you the blanket would come today and I'm keeping my promise. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is, if you haven't seen a beginning video where it talks about the yarn and the amounts and colours and so on, I've left a link to that video in the description box down below. But quick heads up, I will be talking about the very first colour today anyways, so you won't miss out on today's part. And then you can head over there and check out all the other colours and how much you need. The first colour you will need double the amounts of every other colour that is used in the blanket. Now know this, you can make your blanket in just one colour if you like, because when we talk about the transitioning into the very next step, that's just transitioning into a new stitch, completely new stitch. Okay, so if you don't want to change your colors at the same time as transitioning into the new stitch, you don't need to. You can use one color if you like. And all that information was discussed in the very first video. So I'm not going to talk about it today. I'm going to let you head over to the workstation and start. But before I do, real quickly, I'm also going to speak today real quickly, just before you start, of some other color combinations as well. I will have the colors that you saw last week that you're going to be using at the very start of the tutorial, and then I will show you some other color combinations that you can use as well, or you can use your own color combinations, or you can use one color. Whew, that's a lot of talking. Let's forget about all that right now. Let's head over to the workstation and start part 1, step 1 of our 12-step transition blanket. Good luck all. Alrighty guys, so here are the colours that we're using for our blanket. Just a quick update: January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and this colour here will also be used as December for our border round as well. Please note that when I left the details up on our introductory video, I messed up the one colour. So if you were to use the cream all the way through your blanket, I put down 5,000 and I can't remember the number, it doesn't really matter. The real amount you need is 2,600 metres for one colour. Okay, not 5,000 metres. I don't know what I was thinking of. Also, the yardage is up there as well. Gorgeous. So that's how much you will need if you're using just one colour. For the rest of the colours that pop up on the screen right there, there they are, gorgeous. These are the amounts you will need for all your other colours. And just quickly, we're going to go and transition into another colour combination and then we'll start our blanket. Alrighty, so here are what I like to call the greys or blue colours as well, and you can mix and match as many different colours as you like. Now I've put down as January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and this is also used as December. Now you can mix and match your shades any way you like. Once again, please note that if you are going to use one colour, you need 2,600 metres. Gorgeous, and that's how many yards you will need. And this is the amount if you're going to use this particular colour combination. All right, now these are just colours that I put through that I had in my stash. If you wanted to, you could make, you know, your reds and your oranges. You can make yellows into golds into orange. You can do light greens into dark greens. You can make yours in any colour combination that you like. Also for today's tutorial, you will need your 4.5mm hook and between 13 to 16 stitch markers. All right, so without further ado, we're going to get started creating step 1 of our 12-step transition blanket. Good luck all. Alrighty guys, we're going to start off by making a slip knot. Grab the tail end of your yarn, wrap it around your finger once and twice, holding it there and holding it down there, leaving yourself a nice long tail for weaving in purposes later. I think I've left too long a tail, but anyway, pass your back loop halfway over your finger, hold it there. Pass the other loop all the way over, pop your hook in the loop and give everything a tug. All right, So now let's get a little close up right here. Okay, we're going to start by making chains. And a chain is yarn over your hook, pull a loop through once, yarn over twice, yarn over 3, yarn over 4, yarn over 5, yarn over 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so we now officially have 10 chains. What we need is 129 chains. Now that's going to be tricky to count. So what I usually do is I get to 10, then I just chain one more for a second and pop a stitch marker in the stitch just before that chain. It's top 2 loops, and then like that. That's 10, 11, or you could start counting 10 over and over again till you get to 120 and then do 9, whichever suits you. I usually start from the beginning. We've already got 1, which is the 11th stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And let's do 11. Pop a stitch marker in the 10th, which is the one just before the 11th. All right? And I haven't put that through properly, but there you go. So pop stitch markers on every 10th stitch when you count. That will help so that you don't lose count of your stitches. You need to have 129 stitches across the row. So all you need to do is pop a stitch marker at every 10th stitch. Now I think I've got about 12 or 13 stitch markers there. It doesn't matter. Give yourself extra so you don't run out. And then pop a stitch marker on every 10th stitch. So later when we're ready to count, we go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. And then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 at the end. All right. So the reason I'm telling you this is so that you don't watch me do this. I'll be here forever. I want you to chain 129 altogether. We've done 20 already. So all you need to do, attaching your stitch marker on every 10th stitch. All right. That only helps you with count. If you can count to 129 chains without having to use stitch markers, by all means, go for it. But for me, I'm going to add the stitch markers to help with count. Nothing worse than you get halfway through the row and someone walks in and says, do we have 10 eggs in the fridge or 12? And you're up to stitch number 8 and you think, was that 10 or 12 now? So I don't know. I don't know why I used eggs, but there you go. Chain 129 stitches. Meet me back here once you're done and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, here we are at the end of the row and I have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120 and 9 chains. Actually I have 8 chains because one stitch came undone before, so I'll just put my 9th chain like that. Alright, so what we need to do now, we want 129 stitches across the row at the end of this row. So what we need to do is just add one more chain. So chain 1 like so. All right, so you can do one of 2 things. You can pop your hook in that first loop that you come to and start your stitch that way. And what we're going to do is make a standing double crochet or a stacked single crochet if you will. But you can either do it in the front where all your work lays flat, or you can turn your work over. Now this is probably better for the more experienced crocheter to do. So if you're new to crochet and you cannot find your back bumps, then you can just go into the front loop like I just showed you. Yeah. But for the rest of us, see all these little back bumps here? You're going to turn it over and find the very first back bump right there. Pop your hook in, pull a loop through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through both those loops. That's classified as a single crochet. But we want to make a stacked single crochet or a standing double crochet if you will. We have 1 and 2 loops in front there. Don't pop your hook in the first loop, but pop it in the base loop. Yarn over your hook, pull a loop through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through both those loops, grab a stitch marker. and place it in the top 2 loops of that stitch that you just created. All right, really important for this particular blanket to do this because the stacked single crochet can look a little messy. It can also look like you've got 1 stitch there and 1 stitch there when really you haven't. All right, so yarn over your hook. We are actually in that stitch right there. So what you need to do is go straight into the very next stitch, and we're going to do a double crochet US, treble UK. Now if you are new to crochet, you can go straight into the stitch there. But if you still want to take a risk and try this stitch, go ahead and do this. But for the rest of us, we're all going into our back bumps, hook in, pull a loop through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. That is your first double crochet US, treble UK. And guess what? You are going to do that in every stitch all the way across your piece or in every back bump. So yarn over your hook, you're in that stitch there. You don't want to go in it again. Go into the very next stitch like so, pull a loop through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, 2 loops left, yarn over, pull through the last 2, and off you go doing it again. Yarn over your hook into your very next stitch, if you can find it. It's a bit tight. Hello. This happens when you crochet too tightly. Sometimes it's hard to find that stitch. Okay, so try not to do your chains too tight, even though we've done them already. I did leave a little disclaimer up the top. Don't do your chains too tight and don't leave them too loose. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'm not talking anymore, guys. I'm letting you head off on your own because this is going to take like 100 years. But what I want to do is get to that very first stitch marker. It does take a lot longer when you're going into the back bump, and I notice it's a little trickier. So, really tight. She's really tight, guys. Really tight. Nothing's changed with me, guys. I've been crocheting for like, I don't know how many hundreds of years now, and I still crochet very tightly. It's just who I am. All right, so we're close to that stitch marker. Remove your stitch marker. It's actually the very next stitch for me, I think. And what you want to do is pop your hook in the stitch of the stitch marker and do your double crochet, right? Pop your stitch marker back in that stitch, all right? Now, that's the way to count your double crochets all the way across again, all right? So let's bring that down a bit. So what you need to do, which is very simple, is that double crochet in every stitch all the way across. Remove your stitch marker, replace it in that next stitch, double crochet to your next stitch marker, remove it, replace it, and so on all the way across. When you get to the end of the row, meet me there and we will talk about what we're going to do next. All right, so that's what I would like for you to do now. I don't want you to sit here and watch me do it. It'll just take way too long. Oh, this is not working for me today. All right, so I can't fit it all in, so let me pop it in a little circle. Double crochet in every stitch all the way across. Get to the last 2 stitches there and I'll meet you there once you're done. Alrighty guys, so I asked you to do your double crochets all the way across, and remember how we count. We go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, and you should have 9 stitches. I've got 7 only because I've left my last 2 stitches, but you should have that. But what I was thinking now is actually showing you a little tip. Now, I don't usually do a lot of tips, but at the beginning of each main pattern that is one of our annual projects or something like that, I like to give a tip. It usually happens in part 2. So what we're going to do, this is actually classified as part 2 because part 1 was talking about how much yarn you'll need. So the tip I'm going to give you, mine adds up to be correct. I have 2 more chains left and I'm going to have 129 stitches on my piece, which is what we need. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you how to do those last 2 stitches, which is quite simple. If you've been doing them all along, you know exactly how to finish your row. Fairly tight stitch right there, but get in there and place your last stitch. Now let's say for argument's sake you did your last stitch, but you needed 1 extra because you miscalculated your chains. At this point, you can actually add, instead of taking them all undone, adding the chain at the beginning and then coming all the way back again because it takes so long, you could do a little sneaky trick here. So I'm going to show you first how to add, and then I'm going to show you how to take off, all right? So yarn over your hook. What you're going to do is, remember this little chain here, you're going to ignore it. You're going to go into, turn your work to the side, you've got your yarn over your hook, you're going into that side loop there and the side loop at the back of that stitch. All right, that's the base of the stitch you just finished. You're going into that loop right there and then the base stitch. Make sure you don't split the yarn like I think I just did, but anyway, pull a loop through and you've got 3 loops. You're not going to pull it through 2. You're going to yarn over your hook and pull through just 1 first. Now you've got 3 left, and then you go yarn over your hook 2 and yarn over your hook 2. And what you have is that. Now it can look a little awkward, but what we're going to do is later, that thread there, you're going to sew it into, and I'll show you quickly now. I'll take it undone, but I want to show you quickly. I'm going to use a really thick needle for the sake of using one. When you finish your row and you go on to your second row, you're going to grab this thread and you're just going to pop it through the base of that stitch like so. And you are done. And later that thread can be weaved in later when we're ready to weave in. But I'm not going to do that because I've got the right amount of stitches. So let's say for argument's sake, which I'm going to have to add later anyway, you've got too many stitches and you don't know what to do with it. So you take off your little stitch here and you realise, uh-oh, what am I going to do with that loop? So this is where, once again, your needle comes into play. This might not work because this is a really thick needle. But what you want to do, and let me get you a nice close-up. Grab a smaller needle, it'll be a lot easier. You want to grab that little knot that you've got right there. And you want to lift it a little bit and see if you can grab the loop that goes in that knot. Don't split it like I just did. There's the whole loop that goes in that knot. And then what you're going to do is just pull that loop out a little bit like that. Yep. Don't let go yet. You're still pulling. You've got one more loop to come out, like so. And then you just tighten it up and there's your stitch covered. Now that, guys, will not hold. It'll be okay for the first, once we get through to the end of the blanket, but later if you pop that in the wash, that's going to come undone. So don't stress too much about it now, but on the way back when we are doing our border round, we're going to crochet over that tail and then you're going to weave it in. Oh, it's too high up, which is why I asked you to leave a long tail. You weave down here, you turn, you weave back, or you weave up there, you turn, you weave back. All right, so that will never come undone once you've crocheted a border round over it or you've weaved it in. Now, if you don't do the border round with us, you need to make sure you weave this tail in really well. So go down all the way about, 7 or 8 stitches, skip a loop this way and then go back up, skip another loop there and then go back through. Make sure you weave it through 3 times. That will not hold, all right? It's just if you get yourself into trouble. Now I'm going to have to fix mine up. In fact, I'll do that right now. I'm going to have to add another stitch now. So what I'm going to do, once again, is go into these 2 base loops. I've put the yarn over my hook, by the way, already. Yep. Go into these little base loops right here, the front and the back. Pull a loop through. 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 1. 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2. 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2. Grab this little thread here. This is a really thick needle. I don't know if it'll go through. Oh no, it should go through. It'll be all right. And then you go into, grab this thread and you go straight into the base of that stitch that you just completed, which is right there. Pop your thread through. Again, that is not going to hold. You have not made a knot here. So what you want to do later with your border rounder again, like I said, you're doing your border rounds, or you're bringing this back again and weaving it through once, twice, and 3 times. All right. So just a little tip there to help you out if you have messed up your stitches. Now that you've got all your count correct, you are ready for your very next row. Very simple here. You are chaining one, oops, don't lose the stitch, and turn your piece, and you're going to work along these stitches. All right, and we're going to do one of the stacked single crochets or standing double crochets that we did in the previous row. Yeah, we're going to pop our hook in the same stitch we are in. We are in this stitch. So pop your hook in this stitch where you've got your 2 loops on top, pull your loop through like so, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through both those loops. Remember, we don't go down that first loop, we go down the second loop, pull up a loop, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through both those loops, grab a stitch marker. Again, guys, I can't express the stitch markers enough in this particular blanket because you can actually mess up around here later. All right, so make sure you have your stitch markers in and make sure you don't go into that same stitch that you are in. You're going directly into the next stitch with a double crochet. Well, let's get closer. That's better. Save me bringing it up all the time. You're going to the next stitch right there, and if you give it a stretch, you can see that little gap in the stitch. Not the big space down below, but the little one there. You're going in there like so. Pull your loop through, 3 loops, yarn over 2, 2 loops, yarn over 2, and don't lose a stitch. I keep losing my stitches today. Oh, I'm not doing well. So that's the first stitch. Well, actually, it's your second one if you classify this as your first. And then you're into your third, and so on, all the way until you get to your stitch marker. And once you get there, it's very, very basic. Very, very basic. She's singing now, guys. Double crochet until you get to the first stitch marker. And you're going to do exactly the same as what you did with your chains. Once you get to that stitch marker, you do your double crochet in the stitch, like so. Remove your stitch marker, replace it. All right. And what I found helped me out a lot when I do large projects in the past, when I've done large projects, I should say, in the past, was making sure that occasionally I counted my 10 across here or 10 there, because you could occasionally do your 10 like I've done here, and if you look carefully, there's a really big gap. I have done it on purpose and placed it on the, I can't remember now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13th stitch to show you that you can actually make that mistake. So if that's the case and you get all the way down here, you're going to think, oh my gosh, I'm 3 stitches short or something like that, or 2 stitches short. What do I do? Just check the count of your 10. So occasionally make sure you're counting 10 between each set. I do it all the time. I count 10 at a time, and then I get to the end of the row, and then I know that these are all 10. I go 10, 20, 30. I did mess up here on purpose to show you what happens if you make a mistake, so be very careful. Why am I showing you this? Because you don't need to watch me do this. Double crochet into every stitch all the way across. Get to your last 2 stitches right here, and I shall meet you there once you're done. Alrighty guys, so here we are at the end of this row, and I asked you to get to, I don't know, your last few stitches. We'll pop a double crochet in the second last stitch, and then your last double crochet goes into the stitch with your stitch marker right on top like so. Okay, super easy. Remove your stitch marker. Make sure that you count your stitches across the way, and make sure you have 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 stitches, that kind of thing. Yep. All right, so what we want to do now, again, we're too far. We're going to chain 1 and turn our work again. Now, you can turn it either way, whichever way you turned it before, just remain consistent. All right. So we've turned our work, and in that very first stitch, we're going to do our stacked single crochet or our standing double crochet again. That will never change in every row for, I should say it will change eventually, but not now. Not for a long time, for at least another few months. So just pop a single crochet like so, And remember, we are skipping that first loop. We're going to the second loop right there and doing another single crochet on that loop like so. Pop your stitch marker in the top of that stitch as you've been doing in every row, even though you've only done it for the third time. But there you go. So now you're going to pop a double crochet in your next stitch, which is classified as a second double crochet because this one here is classified as your first, and a double crochet in your third stitch. Then you need to stop. We're now going to go on to the pattern that we need for the first step of our 12-step transition blanket. So that is yarn over your hook. You're going to do a double crochet, but not in the next stitch, but the stitch afterwards. All right, so skip that stitch, go into the next one with your double crochet. In the same stitch, place another double crochet. That is classified as a double crochet V-stitch. Not the V-stitch, but a double crochet V-stitch. The V-stitch has a chain in between the two double crochets, but this one here is just called the double crochet V-stitch, all right? Yarn over your hook, you're going to skip the next stitch, and in the next one, you're doing a double crochet V-stitch, which means 2 double crochets. 1 and 2 in the same stitch. So skip 2 in there, skip 2 in there, skip 2 in there, and that's pretty much your pattern all the way across. However, once you get to your stitch marker, you're going to notice it sits on a skip. You don't have to do much. All you have to do is avoid that stitch marker, go into your next stitch, doing your double crochet V-stitch or your 2 double crochets. Once you've done that, remove that stitch marker and replace it in the first stitch of your double crochet V-stitch. That can become a little annoying, okay? So once we get our V-stitches across, you can actually count your 10 V-stitches. However, for now, just so that you know you've done it right, just place it above, or you can just put it between the space of the 2 V-stitches for now. Just for now, and when we're done, I'll show you how to keep your stitch markers in each 10th V-stitch, all right? But for now, just do it that way, all right? So skip your next stitch and V-stitch, we'll call it for now, double crochet V-stitch in your next. Skip double crochet V-stitch in your next. Skip double crochet V-stitch in your next. And it's just 2 double crochets into every second stitch. All right, but before I get you to head off on your own, we're going to finish this next one. So skip your stitch marker, jump into your next with your 2 double crochets or your double crochet V-stitch. Remove that stitch marker and just replace it in the space between the 2 V-stitches for now, all right? Just for now. So what I want to do before we continue, you can use a bigger one or a small one here, just pop a stitch marker in your loop so that if you walk away and someone pulls your work, you're not going to lose it, all right? Second tip in this tutorial. We're doing well with tips, yeah? All right. So what you want to do is double crochet V-stitch all the way across. However, before when we started, we counted 3 double crochets across. I tell a lie. It's 2 double crochets and your standing double crochet, which is actually 3, yeah? So over here, grab another stitch marker. This is so you don't forget. Count 1, 2, and 3. Well, let me get a close up there so you can see what I did there. All right, so you go 1, 2, 3. That's where your 3rd double crochet will be. Skip and pop your stitch marker in the 5th stitch. So we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. When you get to that stitch marker, place your last double crochet V-stitch in there and wait for me there. All right. So your job now is to put a double crochet V-stitch all the way across until you get to the 5th last stitch. Put your double crochet V-stitch in there. Meet me there once you're done, and then we will talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, so here we are again. Now I asked you to do your double crochet V-stitches all the way across until you got to your blue stitch marker, in my case a blue stitch marker, whatever it is that you have. Now, oh, so far away, here we go. Now I asked you to skip one and place your last V-stitch or double crochet V-stitch in the stitch with your blue stitch marker. Remove that stitch marker. Skip one, do a double crochet in your next stitch, that's one into your next, two, and one into your stitch with your stitch marker, three. So what you have here is 3 double crochets, a space, and then your double crochet V-stitch, as you would have in the front. 3 double crochets, a space, and your double crochet V-stitch. If it has not worked out exactly the same like that, then you need to check where you may be short on a stitch or you've added an extra stitch. Now, what I mentioned before about your count, here's where the count is going to change. What you want to do here, instead of counting your stitches, just count your V-stitches, right? This is your 3 double crochets, and this is your first V. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Place your stitch marker in between the V-stitch of your 10th stitch. This is not for any reason, it's just for count, if that helps. All right, so removing all your stitch markers, and count 10 across again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 V-stitches across that way. Remove this guy and this guy. 10 across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And again, pop a stitch marker in between the 2 double crochets of your V-stitch. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I'm not going to use this one because this red one keeps getting caught in everything. So I'm going to reject that one and try another one later. But there you go. There's your yellow. In between, not for any reason, again, just because it's a stitch marker. And remove this guy right here. And remove that red one, or whatever the next one is. I just pulled the thread, can you believe it? All right, so you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Pop your stitch marker in between that one there. You should have one more and then a spare V-stitch. That's how it should work. We'll find out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's remove this guy. 9 and 10. So replace that stitch marker in that V-stitch. And then you should have one V-stitch left. All right. So let's count your V-stitches across. You've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 1 V-stitches. All right. Now you don't have to count your every 10th stitch for this step of your 12-step transition blanket. All right. So in this step, you're counting your V's only, and then your last V, and then your 3 double crochets. Now, I better remove that stitch marker. Now, what's going to happen though is over the next row or 2 rows, your V-stitches are going to move. So you're going to have one here. On the way back, you're going to have one here and then 60 V-stitches across, right? But on the way on to the next row, you're going to have 60 V-stitches across and one there. It's just that because it's worked one way over the other, all right? So don't stress too much. Just keep your stitch markers wherever you see them, all right? Let's get on. Oh, come on, Mary, you can do this. Let's get on with the rest of our pattern. So we are here now. We're going to turn our work like we've been doing all along, placing a stacked single crochet or standing double crochet right here. You should know how to do that now. We've been doing it all along. Plus, don't forget, This is the stitch you're going to see around the sides of both sides of your blanket throughout the whole of your 12-step transition blanket, all right? From here, you're going to place a double crochet in your next double crochet, a double crochet in your next double crochet, and then you have your first double crochet V-stitch right here. Let's get a nice close-up there. All right, so what you want to do, skip that stitch right there, go in between your 2 double crochets, right in the big space. You're putting a double crochet 1, double crochet 2, or your double crochet V-stitch in between your double crochet V-stitch from the previous row. That's how it would be written on a pattern. It'll be a double crochet V-stitch in between the double crochet V-stitch from your previous row. So yarn over your hook, skip your double crochets here, and in between your double crochet V-stitch you are doing your double crochet V-stitch of 2 double crochets. So really remove that stitch marker first and replace it in that, the big space of your double crochet V-stitch. So really all you need to remember is to place 2 double crochets into the 2 double crochets from the previous row. I'm calling it double crochet V-stitch because that is what the pattern, or the written pattern I should say, will have written. It will be written double crochet V-stitch. It won't be written 2 double crochets, all right? But all you have to remember is 2 double crochets in between the space of the 2 double crochets from your previous row, until of course you get to the end of your V-stitches, yeah? So that's it. Let's just go to our very first V-stitch, which should take a few minutes. I might pop this on fast until you get to the next stitch marker, and off we go. Alrighty, I'm at that stitch marker. What we want to do, I've placed it in the stitch instead of the space, but we want to place our, let me remove that. It's only going to get in my way. We want to replace that space there with a double crochet V-stitch, or if you want to say 2 double crochets, you can. Alright, replace that stitch marker in the space between the 2 double crochets, and that pretty much is that. This is all you need to do for your round. I'm sorry, let's try row. They're not rounds yet, Mary. They will be when we're doing our border round in part 12. Yes, but right now we are doing a double crochet V-stitch in between the double crochet V-stitch from your previous row all the way across until you get to, let me grab another stitch marker so you can see what I'm doing. Until you get to the space just before your last 3 double crochets. So double crochet V-stitch into each of the double crochet V-stitches all the way across until you get to that white stitch marker. Meet me there and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, so here we are again with our V-stitches. And if you're counting them, it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and over here, remember we had our 1 as well just before it, all right? On the other way, when we turn around and go this way, it will be the opposite direction. Don't worry too much about it. It's just to help you with count, to make sure you have 61 double crochet V-stitches across and 3 double crochets in the beginning and 3 double crochets at the end, which we're going to do now. All right, and let's bring that up. So where we are is here. I've placed my double crochet V-stitch in the last double crochet V-stitch, and just going to remove that stitch marker that was there in that big space, not for any reason, just to show you to stop. So once you do your last V-stitch, you skip that 1 double crochet, you go into the last 3 double crochets with 1 double crochet across. All right, so really all you need to remember is you've got 3 double crochets in the beginning of the row and 3 double crochets at the end of the row, and in between all of that you've got 61 V-stitches. All right, chain 1 and get ready for some instructions. Okay, now the reason I'm talking this way is because that, my dears, is the end of part 1. What? They're saying, are you sure? And I've just split the don't you love it? Don't you love it? You just split it. It's the end of part 1. That's it. That's the end of your blanket. No, that's the end of the instructions of your blanket. All you need to remember is the row that you just completed. You need to do that over and over again until the end of part 1, or the end of the first transition of your 12-step transition blanket. All right, so let's talk about rows. Yep. And there you have it, guys. That was the end of part 1, or step 1 of our blanket. Your job now is to head off on your own, repeat that last row that you just did for another 6 more rows. Once you've done with that, meet us back here on the 6th of February, Thursday the 6th of February, and that will be part 2, or step 2 of your 12-step transition blanket. Get excited, guys. You have finished part 1, which is right here. Keep your stitch markers in. If you've taken them out, don't stress. We can sort that out in part 2, or step 2 if you like. It is looking like this. It's simply gorgeous, simply divine. That's all I'm going to say about that. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Mary, and this is Wow Crochet Designs. Ciao for now.